Perfect. We are recording week 7. Hard to believe it's week 7 already. What the heck?
Crazy.
Your live teaching call for magnetic content creation. Who's excited? I'm excited. All right, let's go. Yep. Week 7 is all about your marketing strategy. Doing that through social media in the most authentic, compelling, and magnetic way possible, because really being yourself is your cheat code to activating your magnetism. Nobody else can be you. Nobody else has the stories, the perspectives, the experiences that you do. And implementing a little bit of a strategy around how you naturally communicate, show up, and express yourself is where the magic happens. So that's what we'll be getting into. Magnetic online marketing with social media. Woo. Okay, my intention here today is to equip you with everything that you need to master magnetic, authentic marketing through storytelling and leveraging sales psychology. So promoting your offers will become effortless as you develop a strategy-based routine and lean into your stories, your wisdom, and your experience as the greatest testimonial of your work. For coaches in particular and service providers, this is kind of leaning into your natural inclinations, your talents, which position you as the best provider of your service and of your craft, because it is something that is inborn, right? It's like a calling for you to do this work. So sharing those stories is really, really important. So our agenda is to talk about organic marketing 101, how to adopt a winning mindset and strategy. We'll go over your ultimate guide to magnetism, accessing endless self-sourced inspiration. We'll talk about creating content that sells, go over a little writing workshop and a copywriting guide. We'll talk about story content, those essential stories and highlights that your page needs to have to welcome new followers. And we'll also go into grid content, and particularly for the homework overview, I'll be talking about the different post types and a sample launch calendar that you can use given these different post types for cold, warm, and hot leads. I will warn you guys, it is a little bit of a longer training today, and honestly, I pared it down as much as I felt like I possibly could to give you guys what you needed in the most efficient way possible, but we could be here for a minute, so I just want to warn you before we're diving in, before you're listening to the recording, so that you know to hunker down, and obviously you will because of the length of this recording, but I know a lot of you have been rewatching modules again and again, and this one in particular is one that you will need to continue to reference as you build. There's layers here. There's so many different things to implement. So I'm going to highlight this for you towards the end, but I also want to start with this. Like, everything that I'm giving you here today isn't like start doing all of this now. It's like take it in steps, take it in phases, take like the first step. And then once you're comfortable with that, add more on, right? So I don't want you to just like try to do everything this next week and get totally overwhelmed and burnt out and frustrated. I just want you to kind of pace yourself with everything that we're going over today so that it gets to be sustainable and it gets to be impactful from that sustainable implementation. So we're going to go over some mindset first and foremost, talking about organic marketing 101. This looks like claiming your power, activating the winner effect, and the 3 principles of impact. So this is all about the energy that I want you to show up in and the way that I want you to manage your relationship with social media so that you are using Instagram and Instagram is not using you. Claiming your power, first and foremost. I want you to take your power back from the algorithm, from your followers, from the likes, the views, the comments, and I want you to allow your content and your message to come from a self-sourced, sovereign place of pure inspiration. knowing that what you've experienced in your life, your skills, your stories, and your talents are entirely unique to you. So you claim your power by being you. Don't try to be like anybody else. And there is never just one way to achieve a goal. For example, success in business and through online business building with Instagram. There's so many different ways to go about it. There's so many different proven strategies. I'm giving you a method, I'm giving you a system, but the magic is going to happen when you implement the system as you, not when you try to show up as me or try to show up as somebody else. Like, it's amazing to get inspiration from other people, but always allow it to come through the vessel and the unique expression that is yours. So don't get suckered into shiny object syndrome, like chasing all of these like new fads and trends and proven methods and systems. Like, rest in the knowledge that your way will likely be even different from anyone else's. And it's going to take time, it's going to take repetition for you to establish that flow that is yours. But I'm going to give you the tools to find out what that flow looks like for you based on how your content's performing. So when I say you're taking your power back from the likes, the views, the comments, what I mean by this is you are using these metrics objectively. You are not looking at these metrics and taking it to mean anything about you personally. You're looking at you're not looking at, a post that you use to present your offer. And if like engagement completely tanks, we're not taking this to mean that it's a bad offer. We're not taking this to mean that nobody wants this offer, because you already know there's proof of concept out there in the marketplace. You've done market research. You've talked to people, you've done work in this area before, you know this work is valuable. So if the post isn't performing, you're looking at, okay, how can I tweak this? How can I rewrite the hook? How can I create better content that's more accessible and more compelling for people to digest, right? That's what I mean by taking your power back and looking at those metrics from a really powerful standpoint, not taking things personally. Activating the winner effect looks like deciding your goals and then breaking them down into the smallest component parts, itty bitty little daily tasks. So, what is your overall goal with social media? Is that a consistency goal where you want to show up in the most consistent possible way? And we've been talking about this all along inside of this program, where we're always breaking things down to be the next doable step that's a little bit of a stretch. And this is what you're going to continue to do outside of this container and beyond. Anytime you have a goal, break it down step by step and then decide what your next most logical step is going to be that stretches you, but also feels like, yeah, no, that's so doable. I'd be an idiot not to do that. So when the moment comes and that resistance comes up, it's like, yep, okay, here we go. I'm ready. And now when you don't get what you want, when you set out to achieve these goals and you don't achieve exactly what you want, or you don't see the results in the way that you want them, you get what you need. And what you need are the lessons that allow you to reach the goals. So you always get to win. And this is what I mean by activating the winner effect. Because if you don't get what you want, you get what you need. So no matter what, it's a win-win scenario. So stepping out of that victim mindset of wondering like, oh, why is this happening to me? Why is somebody else like getting these results that I want? Like, they're showing up, they're saying the exact same kind of things that I feel like I'm saying. Maybe they're in the exact same niche. Like, why is it working for her and not me? You're stepping out of that mindset and stepping into, what is the universe trying to teach me right now? What is the lesson? What can I find in this that can allow me to show up in a different way that will let me get the goal that I want? And finally, there are the 3 principles of impact. These look like relevancy, intimacy, and omnipresence. So these are the principles that allow you to become top of mind in the minds of your ideal clients, in the minds of your audience, so that whenever anyone in their network, whenever anyone in their world is struggling with something that you are speaking on all the time, it's like, oh, yeah, like you're having a hard time with friendships, go to Hannah. She is the go-to person. She knows exactly how to help you connect, how to access the most authentic parts of you that allow you to connect with other women. Check out my girl. So relevancy looks like saying the right thing to the right person, where you translate your knowledge, your lived experience to support them. Intimacy looks like being accessible, magnetizing, and human by showing examples that it's okay to approach you, engaging in conversation, or receiving guidance. So, inviting people to comment, screenshotting conversations that you're having in the DMs, where you're getting into the kinds of conversations that are really relevant to your dream clients, to your audience at large. When they see these conversations happening, the people that would be hesitant to reach out or hesitant to engage with you all of a sudden feel a little bit of a permission slip where it's like, oh, wait, she's cool as hell. And other people are chatting with her about the stuff that I would love to chat with her about. So this gives them permission to drop comments, to engage with stories, to hit you up in the DMs and send messages. And then omnipresence. This looks like consistently showing up in the right person's field of awareness, intentionally cultivating a raving fan base of just 100 people is what will really allow your business to thrive. All you need is 100 people who you've really closely connected with, 100 dream clients, and like you'd be set for life, seriously, because they have networks and those networks have networks. So if you can strengthen bonds with 100 people, you're there. And like Hannah, for example, I know that you've had 20 market research calls. So from this perspective, you are like 1/5 of the way there to cultivating this closely connected raving fan base. And yeah, there will be nurturing, there will be like continued conversations that happen after the fact, but this is what it looks like. And the reason that I'm a huge fan of being in the DMs, connecting with people in the DMs, and like reaching out to your warm audience or to your followers is because also anytime that somebody messages you, anytime that you are exchanging messages in the DMs, your content is going to be prioritized in their feed. So this is a great way to kind of refresh your audience as well, is by just going in and starting conversations with people, giving them the opportunity to connect with you. I mean, first of all, is a great strategy for just nurturing relationships, but also it has great impacts for your content and not being shadow banned or whatever that means when the algorithm doesn't seem to be giving your posts or your videos the same reach that you're experiencing at other points. So 3 principles of impact: relevancy, intimacy, and omnipresence. Very important. Now we are getting into your ultimate guide to magnetism. This is how you access that endless self-sourced place of ideas and inspiration. So you're never wondering, what am I going to post today? What am I going to share with my audience? What can I possibly say that's going to be valuable? Your personal magnetism is what we'll cover first. And this is a little bit of an overview of a document that is part of your homework. So we're just going to go through this step by step in the slides, and I'll show you what it looks like all together when we do the homework overview. You are at your most magnetic when your content is inspired by ideas, stories, and experiences that are uniquely yours. Like as you go about your day and things drop in, downloads drop in, my belief is that this is source speaking through you. This is God, universe, the creator, whatever you resonate with, like looking for a way to allow you to channel these ideas into the world. So as you create your own personal inspiration hub to turn to when planning your content, this is going to look like a mood board. This is going to look like defining your legacy, This looks like getting clear on your village and the people who you are here to connect with, looking at different post formats, different post types, bumper stickers or taglines, quotes, or anything that you are known for saying, like what is your brand voice, core stories that are part of your brand story, your personality pillars that you want to intentionally cultivate through your content, and then the content arcs. So the different journeys that you can take people on through your content, through your offers. And I'll go into exactly what that looks like in just a little bit. So the mood board looks like you going to Pinterest, creating a new board, and saving the pins that reflect the vibe of your ideal content. How do you want it to feel? How do you want it to look? Note the colors, note the themes, note, just the concepts, what you're drawn to. And then use the mood board template in your homework to save the 36 best images in a grid format so that this Inspiration Hub document has these sample sort of grids right there for you to have a visual representation of how you want your grid to feel. Now, it won't look exactly like this because they will be your photos, but you can grab these images from Pinterest and use them for covers for your reels. That's something that I'm starting to do as I'm intentionally creating this aesthetic on my grid, is like every other reel has one of my photos from my mood board on it. And I've applied the same filter to every single one and all the videos and all of the other reel covers. So it has this cohesive effect. And it's really intentionally capturing the vibe that I want my page to live, to breathe, and to express through my content. And I do think, we talk a lot about whether or not it's important for the grid to be aesthetically pleasing or really honed in that sense. And I think it's totally fine to have like a chaotic sort of feed contrasted from what feeds were looking like and doing really well. I think prior to 2020, everything was very much curated. Like the the grid was everything at that point in time. Now I think it's less important, but I do think that there is an element of cohesion that should be present there, whether that's with the same font types, whether that's with the same filters, the same colors, the same kind of feel throughout. So finding an aesthetic that works for you and sticking with it, I think, is what is going to give your grid a bit of an it factor, so that when new people do come to scroll your content, there is some visual appeal there. There is some kind of cohesion to where they can tell in an instant, does this resonate? Does this not? And I have some aesthetic examples to get into later on as well. All right, next in your personal inspiration hub is all about your legacy. So questions to answer when considering the conscious building of your legacy through content, your business, and your brand. What do you want to be known for? How will others speak of your impact? And who do you want to be known as? What is your character? How your friends would describe you. We've done a little bit of work in this in the second module around that vision board, around that ultimate guide to alignment. So just copy paste what you have there and get it into your inspiration hub for content as well, so that remains top of mind when you go to show up. Then decide who's your village. This is the kind of people that you are excited to surround yourself with, the people you're excited to work with, collaborate with, connect to, and have conversations with. This is your village. This is your tribe. What are they like? What characteristics do they have? How do they spend their time? What are their interests? What are their passions? So that you know exactly who you're speaking to. When you're creating content, this is who you're creating content for. Now, talking about post formats and types. So you have different post formats to play with. This looks like reels, stories, carousels, posts, lives. I didn't put that in there, but that kind of falls into the carousel and post category. The purpose of Reels is really to attract new leads. The Reels feature on Instagram is designed to be blasted out to a wider audience. Yeah, your current audience will see them too, but this is where the interest-based algorithm comes into play. Stories are there to nurture your warm leads and your current audience. Those carousels and posts, the purpose is to teach, to tell stories, to explain your offers, and otherwise nurture and convert your warm audience. Same thing with lives, where you're going on and people are feeling your energy. This is for your current audience, right? So anytime that you are making a post in a specific format, you need to remember that for Reels, for example, it's like, why should somebody who doesn't know me, doesn't like me, doesn't trust me, doesn't care about me, stop and actually engage with this content? What reason can I give them for sticking around? And this has a lot to do with your hook as well, is opening up that loop, playing with their curiosity, giving them a reason to read the caption, to consume the content. And then the different types of posts to develop the depth of your brand look like content for cold leads, content for warm leads, content for hot leads. So your personal philosophy, your personal stories that have given you epiphanies and lessons, your lifestyle, how are you walking the talk, results, testimonials, social proof, engagement. So posts that are designed to invite discussions that people want to engage in, making space for other voices to be heard. And then the invitation. This is your pitch, your CTA, or asking for favors. All right, bumper stickers and taglines. Oops. There we go. So what do you stand for? What words and phrases encapsulate your philosophy of life and business? What things do you live by, repeatedly say, or what quotes have impacted your way of thinking? A quote that will stick with me until the end of time is, "The cave you fear to enter holds the treasure that you seek." And this is a constant reminder for me. I find it really resonates with my audience as well when I'm constantly bringing this up in posts, in content, and with clients as well. It's that reminder that what's meant for you is going to require you to be courageous and step out of that comfort zone. So things like that. And what quotes have impacted your life? What catchphrases are you known for? Your core stories. So the core stories of your life and business that have created the person you are today. Major turning points, decisions, and impactful moments. I want you to brainstorm a list of the major stories in your life that have helped you learn the most important lessons. So this isn't like you need to write all of this down, but just having a note or something to jog your memory around this story and then keeping that in your inspiration hub is going to be really helpful anytime that you go and you sit down to write content. Because when we can deepen our ideas or our content with personal stories, this really adds to the value. This really adds to the magnetism. And this puts it in a way that enables other people to digest it a lot more easily than if we're just talking about concepts, about ideas, without making it tangible through stories, through examples, through metaphors, these kinds of things. And then your personality pillars. So note 4 aspects of your personal brand: your beliefs, values, activities. Note these 4 things that you can express daily through your content. Things that will enable your village to feel connected to the brand that you represent. So 3 values that I stand by in my brand is going to be empowerment, authenticity, and strategy. And the 4th that I would add to that is like the feminine way of doing business and life. So these are things that I consistently talk about. Empowerment, being brave, stepping into the path that you know that you're meant to walk. Authenticity, being yourself we're just talking about this now as your unique code to magnetism. It's coming through your authenticity. That strategy piece is so important. Giving yourself the structure and the framework to build your business within, while also honoring your unique way of going about it through your feminine energy, your cycles, looking at that astrological blueprint for success, leveraging numerology, decision making through human design, things like this. And then finally, the content arcs. So 4 categories of content that are relevant and valuable to your dream clients. And you can note mini topics within each content pillar that you can teach on with authority in your content as well. So, for me, this generally looks like the things that I also break down my programs into. So offers, like honing in on your mission, honing in on your offer, branding, developing a really strong personal brand, telling your story, what that looks like, sales strategy, lead generation, marketing, warm reach outs in the DMs, and then marketing, so organic content. So these are like the 4 things that I talk about a lot in my content, the 4 things that I really want to be known for, and my way of speaking about them, my experience with these things is what makes me different from every other business coach out there who is speaking about the exact same content arcs. So they don't need to be unique. Your uniqueness is found through you, through your embodiment and your story, your experience with these things. All right, now we're going to move into creating content that sells. Become a wordsmith. This is your writing workshop and copywriting guide. And there is also a document in the homework that goes over what I'm going to give you an overview here today to make it nice and tangible and something that you can continue to reference. So know that you have this available to you in that format as well. So step 1 of your writing workshop is to create prolific original content with a daily reflection habit. What does this look like? This looks like how to get good at writing and crafting compelling copy. Your daily habit of reflection journaling should focus on like these 4 topics primarily and in this order. So, what is alive for me right now? What's present? What's real in my world? What am I experiencing? And then second, what am I learning? How am I growing? Taking that empowered angle. So you can celebrate the things that are going well and then acknowledge the lessons, the things that you are being invited, the areas that you are being invited to grow in. Then I want you to consider, how is this relevant to my dream clients? How can I take myself and put myself in their shoes and turn this moment that I'm having, turn what's alive for me right now into something that could also be a helpful lesson for them? And then how can I tie this back to my offer? How is what is alive for me right now, the lessons I'm currently experiencing, how does that seamlessly tie in to my paid offer or different offers that you have in your world? So this is how you take something that is so raw and real and authentic to you, you make it relevant for your audience, and then you tie it back to your offer with strategy. And this is just a brain dump, right? So when you're going through these bullet points, you're just like, you're not even writing coherent sentences. You're not writing full sentences. These can be bullet points. This is just like a word vomit, a brain dump, getting it out there so that you have something to work with, some concepts to play with. Step 2 looks like using hooks to flesh out captions and ideas for posts. So hooks are the most important part of your content. And this is because you have to give people a good reason to stop the scroll. Now, the people that already know you and love you and are familiar with getting value from your posts, they're going to give you a second look, right? They're going to give you a little bit more time. But especially on Reels, especially on content that you're creating for cold leads, you have to have an ultra compelling hook in order for people to stop the scroll. They're going 90 miles an hour, flipping through content, and only the most engaging content wins, right? So you've got to hook them. I have 10 little sample hooks up here on the screen. I have 20 for you in the homework document as well. And this just looks like filling in the blank, adapting it for your niche, for your audience, tying it back to what's alive for you, what you're learning, how you're growing, and also how that relates to your offer. So, struggling with blank, try doing this. You think blank will give you blank, but here's why it won't. Why is no one talking about blank? One thing no one is telling you about blank is blank. Things like that. So, one thing no one is telling you about creating friendships as an adult is that you have to show up messy. You have to be prepared to bare your heart and soul and allow yourself to be seen if you want connection, right? All right. Step 3 of your writing workshop is use copywriting edits to capture and hold attention. So, how to get good at hooking, writing, and crafting compelling copy? Well, using copywriting formulas to capture and hold viewers' attention. We went over some of these formulas in the offer creation module. Take me back. I believe that was module 5. So we went over the PADS formula, the ADA formula, the PPPP formula. I'm not going into these in a great deal of depth in this presentation because the epic hack that I encourage you to use is to write your caption like normal, or start with your brain dump and then instruct ChatGPT to plug your words into a copywriting formula to help hook your viewer. So your hook is the most important part, and this looks like the text that's on your video, the title of your carousel post, or if it's a photo carousel or just a single photo post, this would be the top line of your caption. But the remainder of your caption needs to hold that attention that you've hooked, and it needs to deliver on the promise or the curiosity that you've sparked in the hook. And you don't want to answer the question that the hook is asking until the very end of your caption. So you want to give them value, you want to give them context, you want to share stories, you want to, continue to tease and intrigue them and to ensure that they read all the way down to the bottom. That's where you're delivering the value. So copywriting formulas help you do this, and ChatGPT can take your writing and plug it into a copywriting formula really easily. Step 4 of your writing workshop is to batch content like a motherfucking boss. This is how you get good at writing and crafting compelling copy. Blitz the algorithm, post often, and get obsessed with your metrics to see what's working. So batch content for best results so that you can really work within a strategy. If your strategy is posting for cold leads, you can batch all of your content within the cold leads post formats, and you can get it all done and just put a slew of content out there for the week so that by the end of the week, you're going to have metrics to look at, you're going to have insights, and then you can see which posts are performing best and which ones that you can repeat and reuse and continue to optimize on. And the others that don't perform well is also good feedback for you as well. So knowing what's working, what's not working is really key to creating better and better content all the time. This is how you get better as a content creator, as a marketer, is looking at those metrics and continuing to optimize your methods. So batch content for best results. I'll go over the 9 steps to batching content in the homework. And then when you have enough posts to collect data on, like let's say 9 posts, for example, if you put out 9 posts this week or over the next 2 weeks, examine which ones performed best and why. Then copy and reuse your highest performing content again and again and again. Okay, now let's talk about story content, the essential stories and highlights that you can use to build your brand. And most importantly, welcome new followers to your page. A story feature on Instagram is meant to be used daily because they expire daily. So this is like you telling your story as it unfolds, nurturing your warm audience from this place of keeping up with you, kind of keeping tabs on what's going on in your life, your evolution, documenting your story as it happens, if that's your strategy. I know a couple of us in this program are talking about just having social media be kind of a portfolio for your work. In any case, if you are documenting regularly or if you are creating a page as more of a portfolio, there are 4 essential story highlights that you need to have on your page so that you can meet new followers, they can get to know you, they can find out about your offers, you can have social proof on there for them to see and feel your authority and your credibility, and then trainings, freebies, and examples of your work for them to get a little taste, a little sample of what you have to offer that leaves them wanting more. So I'll go into each of those. Your story highlight is something that we've already talked about. You already have your story written down after module 3 and diving into your hero's journey. So now all you need to do is find some photos to illustrate your story, curate the meaningful moments, and share it. I went crazy with my story highlight. I think the max is 100 slides and I've got 90 slides up there. You do not need to do this. You could simply have like one slide with some text on it to talk about your story. So this can be at any kind of scale, but I do think it is really important to give new followers some background into who you are, just like you would when you're meeting someone for the first time, just like you would tell someone about yourself at a networking event, right? So, meeting humans from this place online, which is exactly how you would meet them in person, face to face, is really, really important. And it's, good manners to tell people about yourself, what you're all about, where you're from, and a little bit of background into how you got to be where you are today, doing the kind of work that you're doing. So this is what your page should do as well, because how else are people going to know you? How else are people going to resonate with your story and your journey and feel connected to you? Remember, people need to know you. They need to like you, and they need to trust you in order to feel ready to invest with you. All right, the next essential story highlight is a highlight that talks about your offer. And the good news is you already have your offer crafted thanks to Module 5. And going over your magic sales page from Module 6, we've given you some formats, some different ways to express this offer. So simply translating these into slides that talk about the benefits, the features, and the deliverables of your offer and share them to your story. And then the link here should be to your sales page or to your call booking calendar so that people know what the next step is. And they might check out your link, they might check out your call booking calendar, and they might not do anything yet, but it's important for them to know what it looks like, what the next steps are for them to get involved in your world. So having that all clearly mapped out for them. The third essential story highlight looks like social proof. So I want you to be consistently screenshotting comments, messages, emails, etc. Anything where someone has expressed gratitude to you for your work and what you share with the world. This adds to your credibility because it shows new viewers, it shows people that others are really enjoying your work. And when they see that other people enjoy what you have to offer, or they've worked with you and they've gotten incredible results, this is what allows them to trust you. This is where the trust trust effect comes in. So save these screenshots on your page so that others can quickly see your authority and credibility as a leader in your field. If you need an example of what this looks like, my results story highlight is on my page, where I've taken these screenshots and a lot of times I put them against a mood board, a photo from my mood board, to just continue to enhance the vibe and the feeling of my page, what I want to express through sharing these screenshots. It's a little bit more, it's nicer to look at than just a screenshot on a blank background. And a lot of times I'll include the screenshot and then I'll give a little bit of context for that conversation or for that screenshot. I'll talk about where the client was in her journey. I'll highlight the most important part of the screenshot of the message and just really draw attention to that. Because again, people are scrolling, people are going 90 miles an hour. They need information to be accessible. They need it to be easy to consume. So always keep this in mind anytime that you're sharing something, is the ease of accessibility and making the most important information the thing that you want to convey strongly front and center. All right, and finally, an essential story highlight would be trainings and freebies. So use your freebie idea from Module 6. Look at post types and the Ultimate Content Library as well for coming up with trainings. And this will help you design little bite-sized mini trainings that you can include just in stories. So share these mini trainings in your stories and then save them to a highlight. So if you can take that freebie that you've created and put it into a little story post format, share that as your story highlight, that's going to be really incredibly effective, especially if it's just a little taste. And then you can link to the freebie from that story highlight as well and give people a quick, easy, free way to experience what you have to offer. Like I said, it's just going to leave them wanting more and coming back when they are ready for more. So it's ideal if you have a little freebie, like a handout or a download available, so that they can dip that toe into the ocean that is your world. And I think it's great if it's, like I said, downloadable, like outside of social media. So I love having these little mini trainings on your stories. But when people are on Instagram, they're on Instagram for the purpose of consuming content, right? And if they see something that sparks their interest or speaks to them right where they're at enough to go outside of Instagram to download a little freebie or explore a piece of free content that you've created, that's going to be really, really important, because then that gets them out of the frame of mind of like, I'm just here casually browsing, to, okay, no, now I'm focused on this because I've downloaded it to my phone. I'm flipping through this PDF. I'm exploring a Notion template. I'm watching a quick 15-minute video training. And that's where they're really going to get more depth than what you can offer on the app. All right, so that wraps up the essential stories: your story, your offer, social proof, and mini trainings. You can have a bunch of other story highlights on there as well. Nothing wrong with that, but I think these 4 are absolutely crucial to moving people from cold to warm to hot as they're coming to your page and getting familiar with you. Now we're going to talk about visual hierarchy, especially when it comes to creating stories. There's so many times, I can't tell you how many times, where I see a story that someone has created and put out, and it's just like, it's chaotic. There's too much going on. There's text everywhere, or all the text is the same size and you don't know what to look at first. And for me, it's always just an automatic pass, because my brain goes, okay, it's going to take way more energy than I'm interested in putting out right now to consume this story and read what someone has so carefully curated. So I don't want you guys to make these mistakes. And the main thing is understanding the principle of visual hierarchy. So it's very, very simple. And I think it's most impactful when you look at it, right? So I've created this slide based on visual hierarchy. You will read this first. This is the headline. This is what tells you the context for what you are consuming. Then this is the subheader. And next, your eye is drawn here to the body content, where you expect to get more context from the title and subheading. You are looking for the value that the title promised. If the hook wasn't compelling enough, you will read on and on until, or if the hook was compelling enough, you will read on and on until you get the gold nugget that you're after. Finally, you will notice this bit up here in the top left-hand corner. So the eye, because we read top to bottom, right to left, is always looking top to bottom, right to left, but the size and the boldness and the impact of the text matters, right? So even though the finally bit is way up here in the top right corner, you're not seeing it until the very end, because the size of the text tells you that this is not as important, right? The headline size says this is important, this is what you need to be paying attention to, and on and so forth, from the subheading to the body. Now, these principles apply when you're creating Instagram stories, when you're creating carousels as well, when you're putting text on your reels. And I really only recommend using like 2, maybe 3 Instagram fonts. One font will always be like your high impact headline. One font will be your body text or your body font that you are using to explain concepts in greater detail. All right, so visual hierarchy is the concept that we just illustrated, where the eye is drawn depending on the size and prominence on the text. This is so important to keep in mind when crafting stories. Just to reiterate, do not overwhelm your viewer with text. Break it up between multiple slides if you have a lot to say, and follow the rule of 3. So if you've got a title for a face-to-camera speaking video, and then you have captions so that people who aren't watching with volume can still absorb the video, then you can have a link. If you've got a title and a subtitle, you can have some body text. If you've got a title and a subtitle, you can also have a link. And this is how the things should be paired. And this is really the prominence that things should be created in, with the title being the most important. With the links, you can kind of play around and make them bigger, because they do need high prominence on the page. This is where you want people to click. This is where you want them to take action. But yeah, it's always important to label your talking head stories with a title and those captions, so your viewers who are not watching with the sound know what you're talking about and still participate. And the thing about talking videos, stories, or reels is they're not skimmable like captions are. So people are so much more apt to skim captions and like look at a caption and see if there's anything there for them that they want to dive deeper into, because they can just glance at it and decide. But with a video, you don't get a preview. So you have to decide, am I going to stick around and watch this video? And this is why your videos need a title to highlight that context, so people are like, oh, yeah, this is talking about something that I'm interested in. So definitely, I'm going to stick around and watch. Bye, Hannah. Good luck.
What minute are we on in the recording, so I can know where to start? Does it show?
Ooh, it doesn't show me, actually.
Fast forward it to like 50 minutes in.
Yeah, around 50 would be.
Okay.
50,
right.
45.
Bye.
Bye. All right, moving on from visual, oh, I guess we're not moving on from visual hierarchy yet. I have a little example here for you. 3 different story slides to kind of highlight what I'm talking about. So I start with a headline, a title, hey. My subheadline is, I'm super excited to be launching my Facebook group. And then finally, I end with what the name of the Facebook group is. So this is also an example of how you can break things up. Like, yeah, I could have just included everything on one slide, but when you break up your text across multiple different story slides, it creates more of a more of an immersive kind of experience as well, kind of like flipping through pages of a book, if you will. So I think this is a great way to format your stories and give people kind of a reason to lock in, especially when you're ending with a little bit of an open loop or a little bit of a hook on each previous slide. They're going to be so much more likely to just keep tapping and keep staying locked in to find out what the final golden nugget is, or what the final result, or what you have to offer at the very end of the story group. Something fun to play around with. Okay, now we're moving on and talking about grid content, post types for the right audience at the right time, also known as like a launch calendar. And I'll go into an example of a launch calendar and how to use the different post types in the homework. Now, the reason I chose a DJ setup for the video of this slide is because this is kind of how it's going to feel as you are creating content for your grid. So you're sort of reading the room, you're sort of feeling out where your current audience is at based on any kind of comments, any conversations that you're having in the DMs, and deciding, okay, if I'm getting a lot of questions, that means I definitely still have a lot of nurturing to do. If I'm getting a lot of excitement, a lot of affirmation, that probably means that people are really resonating with the warm content that I'm throwing down, and maybe they're ready for some hot content. Maybe they want to know what they can do next. Also, you can't go wrong if you're just posting cold, warm, and hot content all the time and just reaching all the different kind of people where they're at in that customer journey at all points in time. So if you're not really loving the idea of reading the room and kind of adapting as you go, then I recommend just hitting on all of the different content types, cold, warm, and hot. And I know it's still a little bit abstract what I mean by cold content, warm content, and hot content, but trust me, by the end of this module, it will be very, very clear, and you will have a complete breakdown, a table, like the ultimate content guide for you to peruse to understand exactly what these different post types look like. So this is what you need to know about Reels. Reels are intended for reach. Reels are intended to grow your audience by exposing you to new audiences who are interested in the things that you are posting about. So social media is increasingly focused on an interest-based algorithm rather than a follow-based algorithm. This is kind of how TikTok like completely changed the game, right? But this is fantastic news for you because it means that your reach is no longer limited to your followers, but your content is shared with the people who are interested in what you talk about. And it's widely shared when your content is good. So how Instagram tells if your reel is good is how long do people watch it for? What percentage of the video are they watching? So if you have a 1-minute video versus a 7-second video, even if the 7-second video isn't that good, the likelihood that someone watches 7 seconds versus a whole minute is so much higher that a 7-second video would likely rank higher than that 1-minute video and get pushed out to a wider audience. But in order to ensure that people do watch the entire video, this is all about your hook. And when people are reading your caption, they're still on the video and they're still watching it again and again. So this is one thing that I really love about short videos as well, is when you can have a super compelling hook and then a longer caption. So the hook should be what drives them to read the caption. You should open up a loop. You should ask a question, just like we went over from all those different hook types. And then they'll know that they can go into the caption to get the value, to get what that hook has promised is waiting for them there. And when people are going through the caption, the reel's just playing over and over again. And this is signaling to Instagram, to the algorithm, that people are really enjoying your content. They're watching the whole thing. They're watching it over and over and over again. So I'm going to continue sharing it with a wider audience, right? Make sense? Cool. Now, photos and carousels are really there to nurture your current audience. Instagram is not prioritizing sending out photos and carousels to a wider audience as much. That does still happen. Like if you go to your explore page, you will see photos and carousels from other creators, but Reels is like the real main priority, interest-based kind of content. So when you're sitting down to create a photo post or a carousel post, know that you are creating this for your current audience. And you absolutely can share cold lead type of content here, like your story, your philosophy, your lifestyle. But it's not going to be having that same reach. It's not going to be getting out to the wider audience as much. Yeah, it's really, yeah. Okay, so just to reiterate, photos with captions and carousels are typically just shown to people in your current audience, and often just a small percentage of them, these warm and hot leads, while reels are largely shown to people who don't know you, cold leads. You're welcome to check out your individual post analytics to validate this trend for yourself, but I'm pretty confident you're going to see exactly what I'm talking about. This means that reels have the most potential to grow your audience. Posts and carousels are best used to nurture and convert your audience. Let's go into a breakdown of what this means when we're talking about cold leads, warm leads, and hot leads, the objective, the cue, so how to know what kind of lead they are, the type of content that you're going to create for each of the different types of leads, and the stage of conversation that you're having in the DMs based on that DM scripts and conversation guide that I gave you in module 6. And then the positioning is consistent, right? You want your message and your mission to be consistent. You want your top of mind awareness to be consistent, achieved through that omnipresence, relevancy, and intimacy, the 3 principles of impact that we talked about at the beginning, and your authority. And authority largely comes from you being in full belief of the value of what you're here to offer, and having those testimonials, those screenshots, those pieces of social proof that back this up and say, you know, it's not just me who thinks my offer is the shit. Everyone else who interacts with it as well, everyone who interacts with my content is loving it and getting value from it as well. So that's authority. Let's look at the objectives here. The objectives with cold leads is to grow your audience. The objective with warm leads is to nurture. Your objective with hot leads is to convert them, to welcome them into your paying world. So the cue that someone is a cold lead is that they just joined your audience. They followed you, they accepted your friend request, etc. You should always, 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 always send that DM message to welcome them into your audience and find out what drew them in. Like say, hi, I'm so glad you're here. I'd love to know, what is it about my content or my page that made you want to stick around? Why'd you hit follow? The cue that someone is a warm lead is when they engage, they like, comment, respond to messages, they view your stories, for example. So this means that they are taking the time to interact with your content, to get to know you, get to know what you're all about. And this warms them up because we have those essential story highlights and those pinned posts in place right there at the top of the page so they can learn your story. Oh, going to Meet tab, 1 sec. Stay in the call. Ooh, that was close. We almost got shut down. Okay. Where was I? Oh, yes, they are engaging with your content, and you know, because of the essential story highlights that you have on your page, that they've seen your story, they more than likely explored your offer, they've seen all of your social proof, and even if they haven't downloaded a freebie yet, they more than likely know that you have some freebies, some mini trainings from things for them to sample. Now, you know that someone is a hot lead when they inquire or they express interest. So asking questions about the offer, engaging with hot leads content. So when you post a question box on your stories, for example, and ask if anyone has questions about this offer that you've been sharing about, this offer that you've been promoting, or if they book a call with you, that means they're definitely a hot lead. If they download a freebie, I would say that's really going from warm to hot. Yeah, so those are the cues. And then the different types of content look like sharing your personal story, personal philosophy, and lifestyle for cold leads. Social proof is going to be across the board. That's always relevant. For warm leads, you're sharing value, you're sharing lessons, things that they need to know in order to get to where they want to be. You're sharing trainings, so tangible things that they can apply to their journey to get the results that they're looking for right here and now through your free content. Pain and problems, so addressing their struggles, providing solutions with your content. Again, social proof. Hot lead content is going to look like diving into your process, your method, fully explaining that. That's going to look like you sharing your solution that is your offer, your vision for why you created this solution, why you think it's important, what you're motivated by, your mission, giving them an opportunity to resonate with your why. And then call to action posts where that's simply talking about the offer, the urgency, like how long do people have to sign up, how many spots do you still have available, what your calendar looks like, and how they can get involved with a clear call to action that's like book a call, apply here, etc. So those conversations for the cold leads are going to look like a tap on the shoulder. In other words, following them, viewing their stories, liking their stories, engaging with their content, seeing if they follow you back from that little bit of engagement. Introducing yourself when somebody does follow you, establishing a little bit of rapport, getting to know them. Warm lead conversations is more intimacy, finding out what's going on in their lives, where they're at, anything they're struggling with, those pain points and desires discovery. So yeah, this is like what you do for a good friend as well, where it's like, what's really going on? How are you really doing? You know, what are you struggling with? And finding out if there's any way that you can help them. The Magic PDF is a version of the freebie that I've taught on previously. So this looks like having your freebie in PDF format. So something that you can send them as a warm lead, where when you find out that their pain points and their desires align perfectly with your offer, you can give them this freebie, this magic PDF that helps them with these pain points, gets them closer to their desires, and gives them that further taste of what it's going to be like to be in your world and how you can help them so much more profoundly through a paid offer. Then the hot lead conversation is going to look like the invitation to work with you, either in the DMs is where you would have this conversation for low ticket offers. For high ticket offers, you would have this invitation on a call. Then you would handle those objections like, I don't have the money at the moment. I need to talk this over with a partner or a spouse, or any kind of belief objections where like, is this really going to work for me? And then also like timing kind of objections, where if they say, oh, maybe it isn't the right time. So getting into those conversations, and that's also covered in your DM scripts, talking about handling those objections. And what I will say is like, it's never really about the money. It's never really about the timing. It's always going to come down to the belief. So their belief in you, whether you can really help them, whether the offer is exactly what they're looking for, or their belief in themselves, and whether or not, like for coaching offers, for instance, if they are able to show up and do what they need to do to get the results that your container offers. And this is what stops people more often than not, is like, okay, yeah, is this going to work for me? Can I trust myself to implement? Can I trust myself to show up? For service-based offers, it's going to be so much more about the offer itself being exactly what they're looking for, and them having a good rapport with you and trusting that you are the ultimate person that they want to invest with. So I hope this was helpful. Feel free to screenshot this for reference if it's something that you want to come back to again and again. take some notes otherwise. Yeah, and know that this is your funnel, right? Especially as it fits in with the sales process that we've already outlined with the DM scripts, getting people on calls and closing sales. Taking them from cold to warm to hot is what your organic marketing and your content is here to do. All right, and finally, before we get into the homework, I want to make a quick note on aesthetics and why they matter. So some notes on how to pass the vibe check so that your new potential leads actually hit the follow button as a little micro investment of their time. Some people are more conscious with their follows than others, but I think more and more we're getting into a day and age where people are mindful of who they're engaging with, the type of content that they're consuming. So in order for you to be worthy of them making that micro investment with their time and energy, your page, your feed, like first of all, yes, your bio needs to speak to them. They need to resonate with those essential story highlights. They need to get a good feel from your content, and the vibe needs to be cohesive. It needs to have some kind of visual allure to it, some kind of aspirational sort of effect that's like, ooh, I want to spend more time here because I feel like when I spend more time here in this person's world and with their content, I'm getting closer to the results that I want, and I'm getting closer to becoming the kind of person that I want to be. It just feels really, really good to surround yourself with visual appeal and things that look beautiful, right? And that's what it's all about. So aesthetics, how to pass the vibe check. You have fonts, you have colors, you have filters, and there's, more than this that we could dive into, but this is where I want you to start. Always using the same 2, maybe 3 max fonts on your stories, reels, and grid posts. Choose one that you consistently use as a header, one that you consistently use for body text. Colors, choose brand colors that reflect the way you want your audience to feel when interacting with your content, and stick to this palette when creating graphics, planning photo shoots, and like wearing these colors in your photo shoots is a great way to incorporate the brand colors and the feelings that you want to convey. If you're completely new to color psychology and the feelings that colors can, like the effect that they can have on our emotion, do a quick Google search. You'll have all of the colors come up, and then the different feelings and emotions associated with each of them. Blue, for example, is a really calming color. It has a calming effect, kind of like looking at water or seeing a wide, bright blue open sky. It just kind of feels fresh. It feels like, deep breath and relax kind of thing. Whereas like red is bold and passionate. So it has a completely different kind of effect. But like I said, Google color psychology if you need a little bit more of a breakdown there. And then filters, use the same filters for your content. I think this is the fastest, the easiest, and the best way to achieve a cohesive kind of feel with your content. So choose one Canva filter for your photos and stick with it. Choose one CapCut filter for your videos and stick with it. Choose 3 main filters for Instagram stories and stick with those. Now, I'm okay with using filters on Instagram stories. I'm not a huge fan of using Instagram filters on reels or like in your photos on the grid as well, because Instagram filters just really aren't high quality. A lot of them have like the masking where, they make your skin look smoother, and some of them don't always look right or work right. So I recommend finding a Canva filter for your photos, or like a go-to kind of filter in your phone's photo editor. If you have Apple or Google, that's going to look a little bit different, but like choose your go-to. And obviously they're not always going to be full intensity. You can like scale back that little bar to dial down whatever intensity that you want, whatever is going to feel and look the best. But it's important to choose one that you're sticking with consistently, because that's what creates the cohesion. And that's what allows all of your content to kind of flow together. And then, 3 main filters for Instagram stories, and stick with those. I really only have 3 maybe 4, like I'll occasionally use, but essentially I just have those saved. So anytime I'm pulling in a photo or video from my camera roll to share on my story, I'm choosing the consistent filters every time. It just gives your brand a feeling. It gives your page a little bit more of an experience when people consume your content. This feels like you, right? Just like my aesthetics and my branding feel like me and my content. Okay, a little bit of an example. I took some screenshots from Canva so you could see the fonts and the color palette that I have picked out for myself. Also, like as you're dialing in ChatGPT or AI, you can absolutely ask ChatGPT to recommend a color palette for you, and it will give you the exact hex codes that you need for the colors that you feel like reflect your brand the most. Um, Especially if you've done a lot of the prompts having to do with your branding recommendations based on your astrology that are in my free 7-day email series. I also have the free magnetic brand identity course. That's my current freebie. Once you're dialing in your chat GPT with these kinds of insights, it's very like it's way easier from this place to ask for a color palette that reflects your branding and your vibe. And this is what I've done, and this is how I got my color palette. Now, my favorite colors to use right now are going to be that deep purple, that gold for buttons and like highlight text, and then that sand color on the far right. I like mixing and matching all of these. I like the dark purple instead of like a black text on my websites. And yeah, I find that these 3 go really well together. I haven't done a lot with that red, that rosewood, but I also really like the sage green and that teal color with the sand. And these are going to be the colors for my high ticket offer as I start building out that sales page. Right now, I focused on the purple for my soul purpose reading, the magnetic brand identity page that I created for the freebie. And bringing these colors into my page as well. What this looks like a little bit for me is bringing in purple. That's like one of my favorite kind of brand colors. So what you'll see on the next page is that all of my branding photos are done like with this top on. I also wore a blue top for some branding photos as well. But this is just something that I've done in the past that I'll continue to do moving forward, is looking at my color palette and knowing that these colors are a good reflection of my vibe, my astrological blueprint. They're also like pretty flattering colors for me to wear as well. So purples, pinks, sagey greens, blues, like all good colors for my wardrobe. So as I'm like curating a wardrobe or coming up with looks for a photo shoot, I would include these as well. And I just have a little screenshot here to show you the filter Fresco that I always use on my photos as I'm creating photos or carousels in Canva. And then I didn't screenshot CapCut, but the filter that I always use for my videos is 1980, and I use a grain effect. So what I love that my photographer did with my branding photos is they all have a subtle grain to them. And to me, I just love this feel because um, it feels kind of retro. It feels like kind of classy, kind of like old soul. So having a grain on my photos is just like, it feels really good for me. And then having that consistently across all of my photos and my videos, my content, my stories. I use grain filters in my stories all the time. So this is just a signature part of my look. So find out what that signature part of your look as well. If it's grain, if it's light leaks, if it's like lens halos or those little rainbow effects that can happen, you can bring those in through photo editing filters, through Canva effects. Maybe yours is just very clean and clear, bright white. Maybe it's darker, maybe it's moodier. Like I said, those insights from my freebies can be really helpful for you to dial in this aesthetic as well. Unfortunately, there's just so much to go into here that I had to cut it short. We could do a lot more as it relates to aesthetics and personal branding and curating your feed, editing photos and videos and content and all of that. But I wanted to give you the most important stuff, which is the copywriting, which is the different post types, and then dialing in your aesthetics. So this is what you have to start with. This is what you have to work with. The next steps are going to look like posting regularly, batching content like a motherfucking boss so that you can sit back and relax while your content goes out on autopilot. Scheduling is your best friend unless you really like to do it in the moment. I've talked about this before. I'm not sure if I've spoken about it in this program, but for the longest time, I was in a place where I wanted to schedule content. I wanted to plan things out in advance, but I just couldn't or I could, but my problem was that I would spend all of my time planning. I would spend all of my time coming up with the perfect content plan, and that felt productive. So that was like a dopamine hit for me. And then when it came down to actually create or actually publish, I had a block. So for like a year, except for the past couple months, I've been in a space of just posting in the moment because I had to get rid of that need to plan that was actually blocking me from posting and creating at all. But now that I've worked through that block and that I am able to just show up and post and not overthink things and not get in my own way, it does feel really good to bring some more strategy into it. And so when I am talking about batch creation, I'm not talking about getting obsessed with creating the perfect plan. I've given you a lot of planning resources with the Inspiration Hub and whatnot. But I don't want you to get so lost in the planning that you lose sight of the most important thing, which is actually just getting content out there, especially if your aim is to create and publish on a regular basis. I do believe that quantity creates quality. Yes, quality is important and we're aiming for high quality, but anytime that your focus on quality or your focus on planning gets in the way of you actually putting something out there, this is a problem. Then it's not serving you anymore. So as you're sitting down to create, always be asking yourself, how can I make this as easy on myself as humanly possible? How can I get out of my own damn way to make this happen right here and now and not get stuck overthinking, not get stuck in perfectionism, not get stuck procrastinating and coming up with other things that are more important that I should be doing? How can I just freaking create content, put it out there, know that it's so important for my evolution and my improvement that I actually put something out there. And, if I look back in 6 months and I absolutely hate it, then I can archive it. I can remove it. I can get it off of my page. Like I've shared with you guys, I have created, I think this is my fourth. Let me go back one. Yeah, I think this is my fourth My Story highlight that I've ever created. So yeah, that's just, goes to show that it's not one and done. You can always come back and redo content. You can redo story highlights. You can continue to evolve your page over time, but you don't get to evolve your page if you don't start somewhere. So we have to start somewhere. Step 2, I want you to choose a launch date. And what I mean by this is the day that you will start promoting your offer. Like I actually want you to circle a day on the calendar. It's like, this is when I am fully entering launch mode. Now, ideally, this is going to be 4, 5, 6, maybe even 12 weeks before you're actually starting your offer. I believe Hannah's looking at kind of a 3-month launch plan, and that's great. Give yourself a huge launch period, especially if it's an open, like doors open, doors closed kind of launch. Like I think Hannah's planning with this program, there's going to be a point where people can no longer enroll. So I think a longer lead up is great if that's what you're doing. Sadie is seasonal. So, there will be a point in time where the wedding season is kind of over at the nursery for the year. So everything in your marketing is going to be more or less based on that urgency, based on the fact that you have a limited number of weekends, a limited number of dates. And as those dates start to fill up, you will be talking about, oh, there was 5 dates left. Now there's 4. Now there's 3. Act now. There's only 2. Oh my gosh, this is the last one. That's going to inspire people to take action. Same thing with Hannah, promoting that time sensitive launch, 10 days until the launch is over, 5 days. Oh, and I'm actually only taking 10 women and there's 2 spots left, 2 days to go. Who wants it? Yeah, these kinds of things. Hunter, you have a limited capacity. So what that looks like for you is that, you have space for, maybe 5. Well, I'm going to say you have space for 1 at a time of your absolute premium, high ticket, in-person clients. But in terms of how you can be serving people virtually, booking calls, things like this, and fitting that into your schedule, maybe you have like a 5-person capacity there. You have to feel into what that looks like for you and your schedule on a week-to-week, month-to-month basis, and talk about it from that standpoint. But yeah, so there are ways to include this urgency and the scarcity kind of conversation into your content. Gosh, again, there's just so much more that we can talk about in the content realm. It's endless. And I know this is the longest video yet, and I'm still trying to squeeze a little bit more value in for you guys, but I'm going to have to cut it off here before it's all of a sudden like a 90-minute video. I think that's where we're getting to. But yeah, even with everything being pared down to what I could give you guys here today inside of this course, we covered a lot of incredibly valuable material in this module. So like I pre-framed, I want you to choose one insight, one methodology, and start applying it to what you're already doing. If you aren't doing anything already, start with your captions. Start with the writing piece of the content, because that is the bones of the content. That is the most important part. Dial in your hooks. And then once you feel comfortable, add more concepts and keep building. So for instance, you might be tempted to start with the aesthetics, but I don't want you to spend all of your time choosing fonts and color palettes and filters and none of your time actually writing content, right? So focus on writing. That's your most important thing. Focus on filling out that inspiration hub that's part of your homework, and then dial in the aesthetics as you are ready to post and hit publish. All right, that's it for today. I will see you guys in our final module next week, and we will chat on Tuesday about how all of this is landing for you. Feel free to drop in Slack as well. Keep me updated, and we'll see you soon.